You ever run into something and it just kind of stops you in your tracks? I mean, something so puzzling, it just makes you want to peel back the layers and see what's really going on underneath.
Hmm. Yeah, I know that
That's
feeling.
exactly how we felt when we started looking into this Bob Camblin guy, the artist.
Oh, yeah, Bob
He's
Camblin.
earned the respects of like everyone in the art world, but he's also this surprisingly mysterious figure.
Right. Very elusive.
And his art, well, it just grabs you and makes you want to know more. So we thought, why not dive deep into that for everyone today?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so to really unpack Camblin and his work, we've gathered quite a collection of stuff. Like we've got Bob Camblin quotes and other mysteries.
Ah, yes. Direct from the source.
Yeah, that's right. So this gives us a glimpse into like his actual thoughts and observations. And then we have a more traditional Bob Camblin biography. This maps out his life, his career, the whole timeline, and how critics and the public saw his work at the time.
Oh, that's important context.
Right. And to make things even more interesting, we've got excerpts from this YouTube analysis of his painting Minotaur, taking the bull by the
Oh,
horns.
I've seen that one. Interesting take.
And finally, a pasted text document that's full of things like book reviews and
Oh,
forewords.
so even more biographical details sprinkled in.
Exactly. So it's a pretty multi-layered perspective we've got here.
Yeah, lots to dig into.
So our mission in this deep dive is to like cut through all this info and pull out those golden nuggets. We want to figure out what made Camblin tick as an artist, see if there are any recurring themes in his work, and how all of his life experiences are reflected in what he created. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding this really fascinating artist. You don't got to spend hours sifting through all the original stuff yourself.
Great. So where should we start?
Well, I think we should start with the elephant in the room, the air of mystery that seems to surround Camblin.
Oh, yeah. He's consistently described as like enigmatic, elusive, even mysterious, almost like a legend.
Yeah, it's striking, right? And the thing is, he was respected by his peers. People wanted to buy his art.
But there's just not a lot known about him, considering how much art he actually produced. Makes you wonder why that is.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a few things, actually. His biography talks about his iconoclastic style. That implies he wasn't really following the trends, so maybe he was harder to put in a box.
Hmm, that makes sense. Harder to pin down, harder to understand.
And then there's the simple fact that his work is scarce, right? So each piece that shows up is like this big event, which just adds to that mystique.
The scarcity breeds mystery and allure. I bet that played a role for sure.
Totally. And it's interesting, the pasted text mentions this book, Zen and the Art of Enlightenment, and it literally aims to shed light on Camblin's journey.
Oh, interesting. So even those who really knew his work felt there was more to uncover, like there was some mystery there.
We also get these really interesting personal glimpses. Earl Staley, someone who actually knew Camblin, described him as a gregarious storyteller, which is interesting.
Yeah, a real social butterfly, huh?
Yeah, but then Staley also calls him a mystical trickster figure.
Whoa, that's pretty wild contrast.
Right. So he could be super engaging and social, but then there's this otherworldly, almost slippery quality about him, too.
Yeah, so how do we reconcile those two things? Gregarious storyteller on the one hand and mystical trickster figure on the other. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, Staley also mentions that Camblin, like, dropped out at some point and became kind of a recluse.
Ah, okay, so maybe that explains it. Like he intentionally withdrew from the public eye to really focus on his heart without distractions.
Maybe. It's like the trickster retreated into his own world. And then there's this amazing quote from Penny Serling. She said, Camblin questioned everything and everybody.
Wow, that's a powerful statement. It really highlights that, like intellectual curiosity, that constant questioning of the world and everyone in it. I could see that driving someone to keep exploring and to resist being put in a box.
And this next thing is just wild. He often signed his work as Anonymous or Mr. Peanut. Can you believe that?
Oh yeah, I heard about that. It's like he was playing with the whole idea of identity and authorship, almost like he didn't want his name to overshadow the art itself.
Right. The biography even suggests it reflects this submergence of the individual ego. It makes you think he was intentionally shifting the focus away from himself, the artist, and towards the art itself.
Yeah. So even in the act of signing his work, he was questioning conventions, making us think about what really matters, the artist or the art.
It's pretty wild. So we've got this enigmatic, almost mythical figure who's simultaneously social and reclusive, someone who questions everything, including his own role as an artist.
Exactly. Now, it makes you wonder, what shaped this unique perspective? Let's look at his early life, his influences, and how his style developed.
Right. Let's rewind a bit. So, the biography tells us he grew up in Ponca City, Oklahoma. Both his parents were artists.
Oh, wow. So he was immersed in that world from the very beginning. What a foundation.
And there's this excerpt from Incomplete Works that mentions the Marland estate. It was this huge mansion built during the oil boom, and there's also this pioneer woman statue that was pretty significant locally.
So he was surrounded by these larger-than-life things. Maybe that influenced his sense of scale and ambition in his work.
That's what they suggest, yeah. And then we see him go to the Kansas City Art Institute, followed by this prestigious Fulbright scholarship, sending him straight to Italy.
Wow, Italy. Talk about a place steeped in art history.
Right. I mean, can you imagine seeing all those masterpieces firsthand? The Renaissance, all the classical stuff. It must have a huge impact.
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just Italy. The biography mentions he traveled all over Europe, soaking it all in.
Yeah, all these different cultures, landscapes, architecture, ways of life. That's got to broaden your horizons as an artist, right?
Totally. And early as his career, he teaches at a few different universities, which makes sense.
Yeah, pretty typical for a young artist, right? Get that steady income, stay connected to the academic art world.
Yeah, until 1976, that is.
Oh, right. That's when things take a sharp turn. The biography says he ditches academia for this, like nomadic existence dedicated entirely to his art.
Wow, that's a bold move.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes about how much he valued his art,
Hmm?
putting his creative vision above everything else.
Yeah. He basically hit the road, sold his art, did commissions, all to fund these travels. He went back to Italy, went to France, Ireland, Mexico, even the South Pacific.
That's amazing. You can just picture all those experiences feeding into his work, influencing his style, his perspective. It's like he was constantly searching, seeking out new inspiration.
Now, Incomplete Works Volume 1, it's interesting, focuses specifically on his drawings and writings from like 1950 to 1974. And get this, they were never meant to be seen by the public.
Oh, wow. So it's like we're getting this rare, unfiltered look into his development as an artist, his inner thoughts, before he fully embraced that nomadic life.
And another interesting tidbit, his early work often dealt with social protest.
Oh, so there's a social consciousness, too. He wasn't just in his own head. He was engaging with the world around him.
But then he starts combining that social realism with non-objectivity.
So he's like trying to depict the world of symbols, a more internal, subjective kind of art.
Yeah, and Incomplete Works suggests this was influenced by Cremoni, with his dreamlike, fragmented figures and Etruscan figurines with their simple, stylized forms.
Ah, so Camblin's maybe trying to create his own symbolic language by drawing on both of these influences.
And then there's that return to Italy. It seems like a really crucial time.
The Incomplete Works specifically mentions the Uffizi Gallery in Florence and the Capuchin Catacombs in Palermo.
The catacombs, those underground tombs.
Yeah, with all the, skeletons and mummies.
Oh, wow. That's a bit dark.
Yeah, a bit unsettling, for sure. But those places provided these abstract, figurative forms that really stuck with him.
Like those images were burned into his mind, even the creepy ones.
And the text even suggests that maybe he never truly escaped those early influences. The impact of Italy, both the artistic and the macabre, stayed with him.
Powerful stuff. And then there's that mention of his Saint Bambola series. He even said he wanted to turn off my myth-making machine.
Sounds almost like he was battling with himself a bit. Maybe he felt like he was creating a certain image or expectation that he wanted to break free from.
Yeah, maybe. It's like he was questioning his own artistic path.
So we've got this journey from social commentary to these intense Italian experiences, all shaping his art. Now, let's get to the heart of it, the core of his artistic philosophy, the recurring themes that really define his work.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. So one of the biggest things that pops up everywhere is that his art just goes beyond traditional art criticism and the whole commercial art world.
The pasted text says it really well, that his art transcends the confines of traditional art criticism and commercialism. It's not just something to be analyzed or bought and sold. It's about a direct connection with the viewer's soul, you know?
Right, it speaks to something deeper. And there's this review of his book, The Art of Everything, in the pasted text that describes his drawings as, like, paradoxes made visible and blueprints for ideas.
Blueprints for ideas. It's a really cool way to put it. It suggests that the art is not just about the final product, but about the thought process, the spark that ignites an idea.
And some of them were left unfinished, which makes it even more intriguing.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's not about presenting a finished statement.
Mm.
It's about inviting you to engage, to complete the thought in your own way.
And then there's this theme of impermanence that runs through everything.
Ah, yeah. That sense of things constantly changing, fleeting. The Art of Everything review talks about tricks of illusion and disappearing acts in his work.
So not just literal visual illusions, but also maybe a commentary on life itself, how nothing stays the same.
Yeah, it makes you question what's real, what's lasting, makes you think about how much we cling to the idea of permanence.
And then we've got the traps motif. Fear traps, time traps, self-made traps. It's like he's saying we're always in danger of getting caught in these traps, whether they're physical or psychological.
Right, those invisible forces that shape our lives, the things that hold us back.
And then contrasting with that, we have stillness. It makes you wonder, is it about being stuck? Or is it about finding that inner peace that so many of us miss?
It's that duality again, isn't it? Two sides of the same coin.
Now, let's talk about his Mushas Volantes style.
Ah, yes. This is where things get really visually interesting. Develops more fully in the 80s, but with roots in his earlier work. These dots and dashes, seemingly random, but they come together to form these recognizable shapes and illusions.
Right, kind of like Escher, but with a surreal twist like Dali. And the viewer has to work to really see the image, which is the whole point.
Exactly. He's not letting you just passively observe. He's forcing you to engage, to participate in creating the image in your mind.
And then there's the whole collaboration thing. The biography mentions B&E Productions. It was his partnership with Earl Staley and Joe Tate.
The text emphasizes that they were all about the creative process, the joy of experimenting together, more than the final product itself.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? It ties back to that idea of submerging the individual ego. He wasn't as concerned with being the sole creator. It was about the shared experience of creating.
Right, the energy of bouncing ideas off each other, feeding off each other's creativity.
And then there's this quote from Incomplete Works where he talks about his approach to art. Faith and good work. Simple but profound.
It suggests this deep trust in the process of creation, a dedication to putting in the effort and believing that something meaningful will emerge.
Yeah, almost a humble approach, It's not about forcing anything, just showing up and doing the work.
And then he's got this idea of the stumbling block into a stepping stone. He often used jars of water to represent this.
Ah, like how obstacles and challenges can actually lead to growth and learning if we approach them the right way.
Exactly. Let the water settle, gain clarity, and then use that experience to move forward.
Okay, now for something a little more complex. The Scarecrow series, inspired by Günter Grass, the writer.
Incomplete Works says they represent renewal, transformation, resurrection. But the text that accompanies these drawings is super interesting. It's both a description of the image and like a deliberate attempt to disguise its meaning.
Like a clue to a mystery that might not even be about the drawing itself.
It makes you work for it, right?
Yeah.
You can't just take the image and the words at face value.
Yeah, it's layered. And he was very intentional about that. He wanted people to question their expectations of reality. And Complete Works compares it to the aims of the surrealists.
Oh, interesting. So he was playing with our perceptions, challenging us to see beyond the surface.
And he also said he wanted to remake Goya in 20th century terms, which gives us another layer to consider.
So that intensity of emotion, that social commentary, but with a modern twist.
And then there's this thing about corrections in his drawings, like in The Descent from the Cross. He would use like white gouache or pasted paper to change the original drawing.
So instead of hiding his mistakes, he's highlighting them, making them part of the work.
Yeah, showing the process, the struggle, the evolution of the piece. And speaking of evolution, the text talks about how in the 60s, he was trying to combine the poetic style of Hugo van der Goes with Goya's emotional rawness.
What a mix. The subtle beauty of Van der Goes with Goya's brutal honesty. It's almost like he's trying to capture the full spectrum of human experience.
And then in the 70s, he wanted to transform the subjective and symbolic in art into something mystical. It's ambitious, right?
Yeah, really pushing the boundaries of what art can be, what it can communicate.
And throughout his work, you see these recurring images. Puppets, scarecrows, skulls, murky water. Not random choices, right? They're symbols loaded with meaning.
Incomplete Works suggests they're influenced by all sorts of thinkers. Freud, with his ideas about the unconscious, the Chirico and his metaphysical paintings, Grunewald's spiritual intensity, even Kazansaki's the novelist, and of course, Günter Grass.
Yeah, it's like he's drawing from this whole tapestry of philosophy and literature. And in his later work, especially in the 80s, he starts using drawing and watercolor together to create these illusionistic surfaces where images are almost camouflaged.
It's like he's really driving home this point about looking beyond the obvious. You got to dig deep to find those hidden meanings.
All right, let's zoom in on one specific piece, his painting Minotaur. The YouTube video and the pasted text both give us a pretty good description.
Yeah, so we've got this reclining nude woman with like this radiating hair that forms this star shape. And then there's the Minotaur, this masked two-tone figure. Pretty striking imagery, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And the Minotaur, traditionally, he's this symbol of raw instinct, right?
Yeah, the beast within, the untamed urges.
But Camlin's Minotaur, he's got this more human face under the mask.
It's like he's saying there's something more to it, that the monstrous and the human are intertwined.
Yeah. Maybe it's about those dark impulses we all have. Or maybe it's just about the masks we all wear, the roles we play.
And the woman, she's got this outstretched hand holding a shimmering star, or maybe it's a bright heart. The analysis suggests it represents like illumination or creative spark or even life force.
And her posture, it's relaxed, but she's reaching out almost like she's bridging the gap between the ordinary world and something more mythical, you know?
The analysis also brings up Picasso and how he used the Minotaur.
Oh, right. Picasso was really into the Minotaur.
Yeah, and he connected it to sexuality, power, creativity.
So Camlin's playing with similar themes, but his style is more expressive, almost like he's letting those raw emotions out more directly.
Definitely. And there's this clear tension between the Minotaur and the woman, which echoes the ancient myths, but also speaks to something more modern, that push and pull between desire and danger.
And the brush strokes, all those swirls and lines, they're very expressive, like the expressionists and the foes.
Yeah, they add this energy, this sense of like raw emotion swirling around the figures.
And it's interesting, the background is all dreamlike and surreal. It's kind of reminiscent of artists like Leonora Carrington and Max Ernst.
Right. But there's this more raw, almost erotic element that the analysis compares to Picasso and Dorothea Tanning.
So it's taking those surreal elements and pushing them in a more, like, visceral direction.
And despite all that going on in the background, the focus stays firmly on those two figures, the Minotaur and the woman, like a concentrated exploration of their relationship, whatever that might represent.
The analysis makes a really interesting point about the Minotaur representing the constructed self.
The ego, caught in its own illusions.
And it connects that idea to Zen principles, like dissolving boundaries and going with the flow.
The idea of surrendering to what wants to be made, letting go of control.
And there's even a reference to hexagram 38 from the I Ching, the one about opposition. It suggests that these seemingly opposite forces, like the Minotaur and the woman, are actually intertwined, that you can't have one without the other.
It's like the light and shadow within us all, they coexist to define each other.
And in the end, Minotaur leaves you with some big questions. What's the role of the artist, the subject, the act of creation itself? It makes you think about the power of art to, like, shake up our perceptions and make us see things in a new light. Now let's shift gears to his Zen and the Art of Enlightenment books.
These books are something else. One of the reviews calls them a conversation between art and philosophy.
So it's not just a collection of pretty pictures. There's some deep thinking going on here.
Right, it's delving into those big questions about life, the universe, and everything. The funny, the absurd, the profound.
And the drawings, they're described as like koan-sans, those little Zen riddles designed to disrupt your thinking.
Ah, yeah, those little mind benders that force you to look at things differently.
And the whole idea of everyday enlightenment, finding those moments of clarity and joy in ordinary things, accepting that everything is temporary.
Yeah, it's a very Zen idea, embracing the impermanence of life. And the combination of the art and the writing, they work together to really challenge your usual way of seeing the world.
The books are described as a kind of mirror. They reflect back your own thoughts and beliefs. It's like they're forcing you to confront yourself.
It's about introspection, examining your own assumptions, and being open to new ways of understanding.
And it's not about following a strict set of rules or anything. The emphasis is on actively engaging with the art and the writing as a path to, like, personal enlightenment.
It's more about asking questions than finding answers.
Right. And the reviews talk about how even everyday objects become symbols in his drawings. It's like he's elevating the ordinary, making us see the hidden depths in things we take for granted.
And the books are seen as tools for psychological and spiritual growth, encouraging a more mindful way of seeing the world.
And they do a really great job of blending abstract art with these symbolic motifs. It's like ancient wisdom meeting modern art.
And the way you engage with them is important too. It's an active, contemplative experience. The reviewers compare it to a spiritual practice.
It's not something you just flip through. You have to sit with it, let it sink in.
And the recurring themes, they speak to these universal human experiences, these archetypes that resonate across cultures and time. And the whole idea that our inner landscapes are constantly evolving, that's a key takeaway too.
Yeah, it's about embracing change, always growing, always questioning. And the art in these books, it's not meant to be a set of instructions. It's more like a collection of metaphors, these visual prompts that spark your own insights and discoveries.
And the reviews highlight the diverse philosophical influences, from Zen Buddhism to the I Ching, even existential thought and Taoism. It's like he's weaving together this whole tapestry of wisdom. These Zen and the Art of Enlightenment books really do feel like the culmination of his artistic and philosophical journey.
So, to wrap things up, it's pretty clear that Bob Camblin was a complex and enigmatic figure, and that mysterious quality, it's kind of essential to the power of his art, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We've seen how all these different influences, from his childhood to his travels and his deep engagement with philosophy, shaped his work. And his art, it constantly grapples with those profound questions that haunt us all. The nature of reality, the illusion of permanence, the search for meaning.
And his art doesn't let you off easy. Like we saw with Minotaur and the Zen and the Art of Enlightenment books, he challenges us to engage, to think critically, to question our assumptions. He doesn't give us easy answers, which is probably why he's so compelling.
And that's what makes him such a fascinating figure, right? He resists categorization, he makes us work for it, and in the process, he expands our understanding of what art can be, what it can do, and what it can teach us about ourselves.
So, thinking about all this, and especially about Camlin's fascination with masks, both literally and metaphorically, what masks might we be wearing in our own lives? And what truths might we discover if we were brave enough to take them off?
Hmm.
And taking inspiration from his concept of everyday enlightenment, how can we be more present, more aware of the beauty and meaning that's hidden in plain sight in the ordinary moments of our lives? If this deep dive into the world of Bob Camblin has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to explore his art further. We've given you the starting point, the map, but the real journey, the real discovery is yours to make.
Well said.
Thanks.
I think we did him justice today.
Yeah, I think so too. It was a good one. All right, until next time, folks, keep those minds open and those eyes peeled for the extraordinary in the everyday.
And don't be afraid to question everything.
That's good advice. All right, see you next time.